Admiral Tae-jin stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the massive view screen. The Terran defense fleet stretched out before him like a steel constellation. 200 warships, each one a masterpiece of human engineering. He had spent 30 years building this fleet, and he was proud of what humanity had achieved. The communication officer turned to him with worry in her eyes. "Sir, we're receiving reports from the outer colonies. Something big is coming." Tae-jin frowned. "What kind of something?" "Unknown vessels, sir, thousands of them. They're not responding to our signals." The admiral felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years of service, he had never heard of a fleet that large. The biggest enemy force humanity had ever faced was maybe 50 ships. "Show me the data." The view screen changed to display a tactical map. Red dots appeared at the edge of human space, more red dots than Tae-jin had ever seen. They moved in perfect formation, advancing toward human colonies with mechanical precision. Dr. Yuri entered the bridge carrying a datapad. She was the fleet's best expert on alien species, and her face was pale with fear. "Admiral, I've been studying the sensor data. These ships, they don't match any known alien technology. The power readings are off the charts." "How off the charts?" Tae-jin asked. "Each of their vessels generates more energy than our entire fleet combined." The bridge fell silent. Tae-jin stared at the red dots moving across the map. "Recommendations, Doctor? We need to make contact immediately if these beings are hostile." She didn't finish the sentence, but everyone understood. Within hours, the Terran defense fleet was moving toward the edge of human space. Captain Wubin commanded one of the heavy cruisers in the formation. His ship, the Indomitable Spirit, was his pride and joy. He had served on her for 10 years, and his crew trusted him completely. Lieutenant Commander So Young worked at the tactical station beside him. She was young but brilliant, and Wubin had been training her to be his second-in-command. "Captain, the alien fleet has stopped moving. They're holding position just outside the Kepler system." "Any communication attempts?" "None, sir. They're just waiting." Admiral Tae-jin made the decision to approach with a small diplomatic fleet. 12 ships, including his flagship, would make first contact. The rest of the fleet would hang back, ready to respond if needed. As they approached the alien vessels, the human crews got their first good look at their visitors. The ships were massive, each one larger than a human battleship. They were black as space itself, covered in strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift and move. There were hundreds of them, arranged in perfect formations that stretched beyond the horizon. "My God," whispered So Young. "There are so many of them." The largest alien vessel was the size of a small moon. It sat in the center of the formation like a dark sun, radiating power that made human sensors scream warnings. Admiral Tae-jin ordered his communications officer to broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Tae-jin of the Terran Defense Fleet. We come in peace seeking dialogue with your people." For long minutes there was no response. Then a voice filled the bridge, speaking perfect human language but with a tone that made everyone's skin crawl. "I am Supreme Overlord Vexitharan of the Hegemony Council. Your species has been judged inferior. You will be removed." Admiral Tae-jin felt his heart racing. "There must be some misunderstanding. We have no quarrel with your people. Perhaps we can discuss it." "There is nothing to discuss." The communication ended. For a moment, the space between the fleets was silent and still. Then the largest alien ship opened fire. The beam that struck Admiral Tae-jin's flagship was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It wasn't energy or plasma or any recognizable weapon. It was something that seemed to unmake reality itself. The flagship simply ceased to exist, taking Admiral Tae-jin and 300 crew members with it. The remaining diplomatic ships tried to scatter, but the alien weapons found them easily. In seconds, 11 more human vessels were destroyed. Only the communications ship escaped, carrying the terrible news back to the fleet. Captain Wubin watched the massacre from his position with the main fleet. His tactical officer, So Young, was recording everything with shaking hands. "Captain, their weapons, they're impossible. Our shields didn't even slow them down. All ships prepare for battle. Wu Bin commanded. He knew it was hopeless, but they had to try. The survival of humanity depended on it. The alien fleet began to advance. As they moved, more ships appeared from hyperspace. Hundreds became thousands. The formation stretched across space like a dark wave, blotting out the stars. The first major battle began at Kepler Station, humanity's most fortified position. 50 human warships faced off against 300 alien vessels. The human fleet opened fire at maximum range, sending missiles and energy beams toward the approaching enemy. The human weapons struck the alien ships and simply disappeared. The enemy vessels had some kind of adaptive shielding that absorbed every attack and grew stronger from it. Meanwhile, the alien weapons tore through human defenses like they were made of paper. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, 47 human ships had been destroyed. Only 3 escaped to tell the story. News of the defeat spread through human space like wildfire. Colony evacuation fleets began fleeing in all directions, while the remaining defense fleet ships tried to slow the alien advance. Dr. Yuri worked desperately to understand the alien technology from the sensor recordings. Their shields learn, she told anyone who would listen. Every time we hit them, they adapt to that specific weapon type. By the time we fire a second shot, it's useless. The aliens called themselves the Hegemony, and they had conquered 12 different species across the galaxy. Each conquest had made them stronger, adding new technologies to their arsenal. They had faced every known type of weapon and defense. They considered themselves perfect. Captain Wu Bin gathered his senior officers in the Indomitable Spirit's briefing room. Dr. Jin Ai, the ship's medical officer, looked exhausted from treating wounded refugees. Chief Engineer Dong Hyun showed stress lines around his eyes from keeping overworked systems running. The situation is simple, Wu Bin said. We're outgunned, outnumbered, and outmatched. But we're still human, and humans don't give up. Sir, with respect, what can we do? Asked Navigation Officer Subin. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Before Wu Bin could answer, the communication system crackled to life. All human vessels, this is Fleet Command. The enemy has reached Earth's outer system. All remaining ships are ordered to Luna, base for final defensive positions. The crew looked at each other with grim understanding. This would be humanity's last stand. 89 human warships gathered at Luna base, the remnants of what had once been a proud fleet. The alien force, approaching Earth, numbered in the thousands. Every human captain knew this was a suicide mission, but not one of them considered retreat. The battle began as Earth's moon rose behind them. The alien weapons lit up space like deadly fireworks, and human ships began dying immediately. The Indomitable Spirit fought alongside the others, firing everything they had at the approaching enemy. One by one, the human ships were destroyed. The defense of Earth lasted less than an hour. As the last few vessels fell, Captain Wu Bin made a decision that would change everything. All power to engines, he ordered. We're getting out of here. Sir? So Young looked at him in confusion. Someone needs to survive to tell this story. Someone needs to remember what happened here. The Indomitable Spirit turned away from the Psi battle and fled into the darkness of space, carrying the last free humans in the galaxy toward an uncertain future. The Indomitable Spirit drifted through empty space like a ghost. Her hull showed scars from the battle at Luna base, and her crew of 347 souls knew they were the last free humans in the galaxy. Captain Wu Bin stood on the bridge, staring at the stars through the cracked view screen. Sir, we're receiving broadcasts from Earth, reported the communications officer. Her voice was barely a whisper. The Hegemony has. They're calling it a cleansing operation. Wu Bin closed his eyes. He didn't need to hear the details to understand. The aliens weren't just conquering humanity. They were erasing it. Dr. Yuri entered the bridge carrying a datapad. Her face was pale, and her hands shook as she spoke. Captain, I've been monitoring alien communications. The death count, it's in the billions. They're not taking prisoners. The bridge fell silent. Lieutenant Commander So Young wiped tears from her eyes as she worked at her station. Everyone had lost family and friends in the invasion. They were all that remained. What are our options? Wu Bin asked quietly. Chief Engineer Dong Hyun spoke from the back of the bridge. We have enough fuel and supplies for maybe 6 months. We could run for the Galactic Rim, find some empty system to hide in. And then what? Asked Dr. Jinny, the ship's medical officer. Wait for our supplies to run out? Wait to die slowly instead of quickly? There's another option, Wu Bin said. All eyes turned to him. We fight. Sergeant Hyun Woo, who commanded the ship's marine unit, stepped forward. Captain, with respect, we're one ship against thousands. It's suicide. Maybe, Wu Bin replied. But at least we'll die as humans, not as refugees hiding in the dark. Navigation Officer Subin looked up from her station. She was the youngest officer on the bridge, barely 25 years old. Sir, if we're going to fight, how do we even start? Their shields adapted to every weapon we have. Dr. Yuri had been studying the alien technology since the first battle. I've been thinking about that. Their adaptive systems are incredibly advanced, but they have to learn from each encounter. What if we could attack them in ways they've never seen before? What do you mean? Wu Bin asked. Every species they've conquered probably fought the same way. Logical tactics, standard formations, predictable strategies. What if we fought differently? Supreme Overlord Vexitharan stood in the command center of his massive flagship, watching reports stream in from across human space. The conquest was proceeding perfectly. Human cities burned, their military bases were destroyed, and their population centers were being processed according to hegemony standards. Sir, reported one of his subordinates, Battle Commander Zal Korim requests permission to pursue the escaped human vessel. Vexitharan barely glanced at the report. One ship? Let it run. It will die when its supplies fail. Sir, the battle commander believes it could be a threat to our supply lines. A single primitive vessel? Impossible. Tell Zalkorim to focus on more important matters. But Battle Commander Zalkorim had his own ideas. He had studied the human ship's escape and found it troubling. No species had ever managed to break away from a hegemony battle formation before. He took a small pursuit fleet and began hunting the indomitable spirit. Meanwhile, Captain Wu Bin was preparing for the impossible. He gathered his senior staff in the ship's briefing room to plan their war against the galaxy's most powerful military force. We can't fight them directly, he said. But we don't have to. They control vast territories now. That means supply, ships, communication relays, isolated outposts. Chief Engineer Dong Hyun nodded slowly. Hit-and-run tactics. Strike fast, disappear faster. Exactly. We use their size against them. They can't be everywhere at once. Dr. Yuri pulled up charts on the briefing room display. I've been tracking their fleet movements. They're setting up supply routes between human colonies. If we could disrupt those. It won't win the war, So Young said, but it might buy time for other species to prepare. Or it might inspire others to fight back, added Dr. Jinay. The indomitable spirit began her secret war 3 days later. Their first target was a hegemony supply convoy moving through the asteroid belt near Mars. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, confident in their superiority. Wu Bin had his crew attach mining charges to asteroids and launch them at the convoy. When the aliens tried to destroy the asteroids, the explosives detonated, filling space with debris. In the confusion, the human ship attacked from an unexpected angle. The surprise worked. One alien supply ship was destroyed before the others could adapt their shields. The indomitable spirit escaped into the asteroid field before the enemy could respond. One down, Sergeant Hyun-woo said grimly. Several thousand to go. The attacks continued over the following weeks. The human ship struck isolated alien vessels, communication posts, and supply depots. They used asteroids for cover, attacked from impossible angles, and employed tactics that made no logical sense. Battle Commander Zalkarim grew frustrated with each report. How does one primitive ship keep evading our sensors? His tactical officer studied the latest engagement data. Sir, they're using terrain in ways we've never encountered. They hide behind asteroids, attack during solar flares, even use gravity wells to mask their approach. These tactics are inefficient, Zalkarim said. No logical species would waste energy on such approaches. Perhaps that's why they succeed. Sir, our adaptive systems are designed to counter logical threats. The war of hide-and-seek continued for months. The indomitable spirit lost crew members in every engagement. Their supplies ran low, and their systems needed constant repair, but they kept fighting. Dr. Yuri spent her time analyzing captured alien technology. Slowly, she began to understand how their adaptive systems worked. It's like an immune system, she explained to the senior staff. When they encounter a threat, they develop countermeasures. But the process takes time, and it only works against threats they recognize. So if we could hit them with something completely new, Wu Bin mused. Exactly. Something so unexpected that their systems wouldn't know how to respond. Chief Engineer Dong Hyun had been working on modifications to the ship's weapons. I've been thinking about that. What if we stopped trying to make our weapons more powerful and instead made them more strange? The breakthrough came when they encountered a small hegemony science vessel studying the remains of a human colony. Instead of using conventional weapons, Dong Hyun had rigged their main cannon to fire a stream of compressed hydrogen mixed with metal debris. The alien ship's shields had never encountered anything like it. The hydrogen ignited when it hit the hull, while the metal debris caused secondary explosions. The science vessel was destroyed before its adaptive systems could respond. It worked, So Young shouted from her tactical station. Their shields didn't adapt in time, but their success came with a price. The destroyed science vessel had been carrying important research data. When it failed to report in, Battle Commander Zalkorim finally received permission to hunt down the human ship with overwhelming force. 20 battlecruisers, Navigation Officer Subin reported as enemy ships appeared on sensors. They found us. The chase began in the outer system of what had once been the human colony of New Sol. The indomitable spirit ran as fast as her damaged engines could carry her, but the alien ships were faster and fresher. They're hurting us, Wu Bin realized, driving us toward something. His fears were confirmed when they emerged from hyperspace to find themselves facing a full hegemony battle squadron. Battle Commander Zalkorim had set a trap and they had fallen into it perfectly. 20 ships ahead, 20 behind, So Young reported. We're surrounded, the alien commander's voice filled the bridge. Human vessel, you have caused considerable inconvenience. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Captain Wu Bin looked around at his crew. They were exhausted, outnumbered, and outgunned. Their ship was falling apart around them. But in their eyes, he saw something the aliens would never understand, the refusal to give up. All power to forward shields, he ordered. We're going through them. The final battle began as the indomitable spirit charged straight at the alien formation, her guns blazing and her crew ready to die fighting. In the darkness of space, one human ship stood against impossible odds, carrying the last spark of human defiance toward whatever fate awaited them. The indomitable spirit shook under enemy fire as alien weapons tore through her outer hull. Captain Wu Bin gripped his command chair as explosions rocked the bridge. Sparks flew from damaged control panels, and the lights flickered with each hit. Forward shields down to 30%, So Young reported, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Hull breaches on decks 5 through 8. Return fire, Wu Bin ordered. Everything we have. The human ship's weapons struck the alien vessels, but their adaptive shields absorbed the energy without effort. Meanwhile, the hegemony battle squadron closed in from all sides like a pack of predators surrounding wounded prey. Dr. Yuri worked frantically at a science station, analyzing data from their previous battles. Her fingers flew across the controls as enemy fire lit up the space around them. Captain, I'm seeing something in their shield patterns. When we hit them with the hydrogen weapon, there was a delay before they adapted. How long a delay? Wu Bin asked as another explosion shook the ship. Almost 3 seconds. For their technology, that's an eternity. Chief Engineer Dong Hyun's voice crackled over the communication system from deep in the ship's engine room. Captain, I'm losing main power. Whatever you're going to do it fast. The alien ships had formed a perfect sphere around the human vessel, their weapons charging for what would certainly be the killing blow. Battle Commander Zalkorim's voice filled the bridge one final time. You have fought well for primitives, but this ends now. Your species dies with you. Wu Bin looked around at his crew. Dr. Jin'e was treating wounded officers at her medical station. Sergeant Haiyan Wu stood ready at the weapons console despite a bleeding head wound. Navigation Officer Su Bin maintained course, even as her console sparked and smoked. If we're going to die, Wu Bin said quietly, let's show them how humans die. He was about to give the order for a final desperate charge when Dr. Yuri suddenly shouted from her station, "Wait, Captain, I think I understand. They're adaptive systems. They're not just learning from our weapons. They're learning from our tactics, our patterns, everything we do." What does that mean? So Young asked. It means every species they've conquered fought the same way. Logical, predictable, following standard military doctrine. But what if we didn't? Before Wu Bin could ask what she meant, the alien ships opened fire. The concentrated firepower should have destroyed the human vessel instantly, but Chief Engineer Dong Hyun had been listening to every word. In the engine room, he made a decision that saved them all. Instead of trying to maintain steady power to the shields, he began rapidly cycling the engines on and off. The ship's defensive systems fluctuated wildly, creating an energy pattern unlike anything the aliens had ever encountered. Their targeting systems couldn't lock onto such an erratic signature. Impossible, Battle Commander Zal Karim muttered as his weapons missed their target. Our computers cannot track their energy output. The indomitable spirit used the confusion to break through the alien formation. Her engines screaming with overload warnings, the human ship escaped into a nearby nebula before the hegemony vessels could adapt to Dong Hyun's wild power cycling. Deep in the colorful gases of the nebula, the human crew worked to repair their damaged ship. The hull was cracked in dozens of places, major systems were offline, and they had lost 37 crew members in the battle. But they were alive, and Dr. Yuri had made a discovery that could change everything. I've been studying their technology for months, she explained to the assembled senior staff. Their adaptive systems are incredible, but they have one weakness. They can only adapt to threats they understand. Meaning what? Asked Dr. Jin'e as she bandaged Sergeant Haiyan Wu's wounded arm. They've conquered 12 species across the galaxy. Each victory taught them new ways to fight, new technologies to counter. They've seen every logical tactic, every efficient strategy, every reasonable approach to warfare. Captain Wu Bin was beginning to understand. But they've never faced anything illogical. Exactly. Their computers are designed to find optimal solutions to tactical problems. But what happens when there is no optimal solution? What happens when the enemy does something that makes no sense? Chief Engineer Dong Hyun nodded slowly. Like cycling power randomly instead of maintaining steady shields. Or firing hydrogen instead of energy weapons, added So Young. Or hiding behind asteroids when open space would be more efficient. Every time we've succeeded against them, it's been because we did something unexpected, Yuri continued. Something that violated their understanding of how warfare should work. The implications were staggering. Humanity's greatest weakness in space combat had always been their tendency toward chaotic, unpredictable tactics. Military academies taught order, discipline, and logical thinking. But against the hegemony, those teachings were useless. So our crazy ideas might actually work? Asked Navigation Officer Subin. More than work, Yuri replied. They might be our only chance. Over the following days, the crew of the Indomitable Spirit began preparing for the impossible. If they were going to fight the most powerful military force in the galaxy, they would have to become something no military had ever been before. Completely unpredictable. Chief Engineer Dong Hyun worked with his team to modify every system on the ship. Instead of reliable, efficient designs, they created weapons and defenses that changed randomly. Power systems that fluctuated for no reason. Shields that shifted frequency every few seconds. Weapons that fired different types of energy in random patterns. This violates every principle of good engineering, Dong Hyun muttered as he installed another illogical modification. None of this should work. That's exactly why it will work, Dr. Yuri replied. Meanwhile, Captain Wu Bin was rewriting the ship's tactical doctrine. Instead of careful battle plans, He created strategies based on dice rolls and random number generators, attack patterns that changed mid-battle, formations that made no tactical sense. Dr. Jinnei prepared medical supplies for the battles to come, knowing that their chaotic fighting style would likely result in more injuries. Sergeant Haiyan Wu trained his Marines in boarding tactics that followed no logical sequence. Even Navigation Officer Subin programmed flight paths that zigzagged through space for no apparent reason. "We're turning ourselves into madmen," So Young observed as she worked on new targeting protocols. "Sometimes madness is the only sane response to an insane situation," Wu Bin replied. Their preparations were interrupted when long-range sensors detected incoming ships. Supreme Overlord Vexitharan had grown tired of Battle Commander Zalkorim's failures and was leading the hunt personally. 200 ships, Subin reported. "They're sweeping this entire sector." The crew of the Indomitable Spirit looked at each other with grim determination. Their ship was still damaged from the last battle. They were outnumbered 200 to 1. Any sane person would run. "Plot a course directly toward the largest group of enemy ships," Captain Wu Bin ordered. "Sir?" Subin asked in confusion. "You heard me. We're going to attack the main fleet." "That's suicide," Sergeant Haiyan Wu said. "No," Dr. Yuri corrected. "That's exactly what they won't expect. Their computers will never predict that one damaged ship would attack 200 fresh vessels. The surprise alone might give us the advantage we need." The Indomitable Spirit emerged from the nebula like a ghost ship from humanity's past. Her hull was patched with metal scraps. Her weapons were jury-rigged contraptions that looked like they belonged in a scrapyard, and her crew was running on determination alone. Supreme Overlord Vexitharan watched the human ship approach on his command display. "Is that vessel malfunctioning? Why is it flying directly toward us?" His tactical officer studied the sensor readings. "Sir, I cannot determine their intent. Their approach vector makes no strategic sense." "Perhaps they wish to surrender?" "Negative, sir, they're charging weapons." Vexitharan had conquered a dozen species across the galaxy. He had seen every type of military strategy, every form of desperation, every kind of final stand. But he had never seen anything like this. The human ship opened fire while still far, beyond effective weapon range. Their energy beams scattered in all directions, hitting nothing but empty space. Their missile volleys followed flight paths that curved and twisted without purpose. It was like watching someone fight while blindfolded. "Their weapons are malfunctioning," Vexitharan concluded. "Destroy them quickly." But when his ships returned fire, something impossible happened. The human vessel's shields flickered and changed, deflecting attacks that should have been deadly. Their erratic flight pattern made them nearly impossible to target accurately. And somehow, their random weapons fire was starting to find its mark. "Sir," his tactical officer reported with confusion in his voice. "Our adaptive systems cannot establish firing solutions. The enemy vessel's behavior follows no recognizable pattern." For the first time in his long career of conquest, Supreme Overlord Vexitharan faced an enemy that his perfect technology could not understand. And deep in his ancient warrior's heart, he felt something he had not experienced in centuries: fear. The Indomitable Spirit charged straight into the heart of the hegemony fleet like a meteor blazing through the darkness. Her weapons fired in every direction, creating patterns of light that made no sense to anyone watching. Supreme Overlord. Vexitharan stared at his tactical display in complete confusion. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "Their attack pattern is completely random." His tactical officer worked frantically at his controls. "Sir, our computers cannot predict their next move. They fire, then stop, then fire again from different weapons. There is no logic to it." The human ship spun and twisted through space, like a dancer gone mad. Her shields flickered between different frequencies so fast that the alien targeting systems couldn't lock on. When the hegemony ships tried to surround her, she would suddenly accelerate in an impossible direction, escaping, through gaps that shouldn't have existed. Captain Wu Bin stood on the bridge of his ship watching the chaos around them. Explosions lit up space as their random weapons fire found alien targets. "How are we doing this?" he asked Dr. Yuri. "Their computers are trying to find patterns in our behavior. she explained while working at her station. But there are no patterns. Every decision we make is random, so they can't predict what we'll do next. Chief Engineer Dong Hyun's voice came over the communication system from the engine room. Captain, the random power cycling is working. Their weapons keep missing us because our energy signature keeps changing. The battle raged around them as more alien ships joined the fight. The hegemony had never faced an enemy like this. Their perfect formations broke apart as they tried to adapt to tactics that had no logic. Ships collided with each other as they attempted maneuvers designed to counter human movements that made no sense. Lieutenant Commander So Young worked at her tactical station, her fingers dancing across controls that had been programmed to make random decisions. Captain, I'm detecting something. The alien ships are starting to damage each other. What do you mean? Wu Bin asked. Their adaptive systems are trying to counter our randomness by becoming more aggressive. But since they can't predict where we'll be, they're hitting their own ships instead of us. Supreme Overlord Vex Theron watched in horror as his perfect fleet descended into chaos. Ships that had conquered entire star systems were firing wildly at empty space. Vessels that had never been damaged in battle were colliding with each other. His greatest commanders were shouting confused orders that made no tactical sense. This is impossible, he muttered. How can one primitive ship defeat our entire fleet? His flagship, the massive Absolute Dominion, sat in the center of the formation like a dark mountain. It was the size of a small moon and carried weapons that could destroy planets. 50 escort vessels surrounded it, each one more powerful than the human ship. But for the first time in Vex Theron's long life, he felt uncertain. The indomitable spirit suddenly changed course and headed directly toward the flagship. Her damaged hull showed signs of the impossible battle she had been fighting, but she still moved with wild, unpredictable energy. Sir, the human vessel is approaching, his tactical officer reported. Destroy it, Vex Theron ordered. All ships concentrate fire on that target. The combined firepower of 50 warships struck the space where the human ship should have been. But Chief Engineer Dong Hyun had chosen that exact moment to shut down the engines completely, causing the ship to drop out of her flight path like a stone. The alien weapons missed, and several hegemony ships were caught in the crossfire. Impossible, Vex Theron breathed. Dr. Jin A moved through the corridors of the indomitable spirit, treating wounded crew members as the ship bucked and rolled through the battle. Smoke filled the hallways and sparks flew from damaged systems, but she kept working. How many more casualties? She asked her medical team. 17 wounded, 5 critical, came the reply. But they're all fighting to stay at their posts. In the Marine barracks, Sergeant Haiyan Wu prepared his remaining soldiers for what everyone knew would be their final mission. We're going to board their flagship, he told them. Suicide, but it's the only way to end this. His Marines looked at him with grim determination. They had lost friends in every battle, but they had never lost their will to fight. How do we board a ship that size? One of them asked. The same way we've done everything else, Hyunwoo replied. We improvise. On the bridge, Navigation Officer Subin worked to plot a course that would bring them alongside the alien flagship. Her hands shook as she programmed random course changes into the navigation system. Captain, I've never tried to dock with a hostile ship during combat before. Neither have I, Wu Bin admitted, but that's exactly why it might work. The indomitable spirit twisted through the defensive formation around the Absolute Dominion like a fish swimming upstream. Her weapons fired in all directions, creating confusion and panic among the alien crews. Several escort vessels tried to ram the human ship, but her unpredictable movements made her impossible to hit. Dr. Yuri monitored the alien communications as they approached the flagship. Captain, they're starting to panic. I'm hearing reports of system failures, crew confusion, even some ships requesting orders to retreat. They've never faced chaos before, Wu Bin realized. Their entire civilization is based on order and control. They don't know how to handle complete randomness. The human ship slammed into the hull of the Absolute Dominion with a crash that shook both vessels. Chief Engineer Dong Hyun had calculated the impact to cause maximum damage to both ships, because a logical species would never deliberately harm their own vessel. Sergeant Haiyan Wu led his Marines through the breach in the alien hull. The corridors of the enemy ship were filled with confused alien soldiers who had never faced boarding tactics that involved setting fires in random locations and attacking from 6 directions at once. On the bridge of the Absolute Dominion, Supreme Overlord Vextharan felt his perfect order crumbling around him. His most advanced computers could not understand the human assault. His greatest weapons could not target enemies who moved without logic. His most experienced commanders could not counter tactics that had no strategy. "Sir, the humans have reached the main computer core," an officer reported in panic. "How is that possible? We have thousands of soldiers aboard this ship. They're fighting in ways we've never seen. They attack, then retreat, then attack again from different directions. Our forces cannot predict their movements." In the computer core, Dr. Yuri worked frantically to upload a virus into the alien systems. But this was not an ordinary virus, designed to destroy data. Instead, it was a program that introduced randomness into the hegemony's perfect order. "If their strength comes from predictable perfection," she muttered as she worked, "then their weakness must be unpredictable chaos." The virus spread through the Absolute Dominion systems like wildfire. Lights flickered randomly, artificial, gravity fluctuated, and communication systems broadcast human music mixed with tactical reports. The alien crew found their perfect ship becoming as chaotic as the humans who had invaded it. Supreme Overlord Vextharan stumbled through the corridors of his flagship as everything around him descended into madness. He had ruled through perfect order for centuries, but now he faced his worst nightmare: a universe without logic. Captain Wubin found the alien commander in the ship's main control room. Vextharan stood alone, surrounded by sparking computers and flickering displays. He looked at the human captain with eyes that held 1,000 years of certainty, now shattered by one impossible battle.